It's usually for me on our side. Really, everything's super easy. I just don't know what's.
I'm not into that.
So we'll just have to get it on the train.
So I'll deal with Okay, we're going to call the work study session to order. Michelle, roll call, please.
President Mrs. Gunther.
Here.
Vice President Mr. Thomas. Here. Board Member Mr. Bailey.
Here.
Board Member Mr. Johnson.
Here.
Board Member Mrs. Solis.
Here.
And Superintendent Mr. Knudsen.
Here.
Approval of past minutes. Do we have any corrections or anything for that?
We have none.
Okay. Any agenda reorganization?
We have none.
Okay, agenda item clarifications.
Dr. Leckie, can you please approach the podium and speak to agenda items 15.2 and 15.3, and then follow those up with 15.1 and 15.4.
Okay, so I don't have the agenda in front of me, so if I get that out of order, just let me know.
Okay, employee pay resolution related to COVID-19 is the first one.
Okay. Madam President, members of the board, members of the community. So the first agenda item clarification is a resolution to allow the board pay flexibility with employees as covered by the executive order. This allows us to do similar things to what we did in the spring, which is to assign employees to alternative jobs during a school closure and allow them to receive continuity of pay. So it's very similar to the resolution that was approved, and that was given the authority by the executive order from the governor. Any questions? Okay, 15.2 is, 15.3 is an intergovernmental agreement between the Florence Unified School District and Pinal County Education Service Consortium. This is an agreement we renew every year with the Pinal County School Office to provide opportunities for us for professional learning. We get a steeply discounted rate and then consulting services and some additional professional learning and professional development through the county school office. So it's a consortium fee. All districts part of the consortium then can take advantage of what the school office provides as far as professional learning. So that's a renewal of an existing MOU. Any questions? Okay. Okay, I'm going to go back to agenda item 15.1. which is the approval of a face covering policy as required by Executive Order 2020-51. So this was the same executive order that allowed us to provide continuity of pay for employees. And it requires and obligates school districts to adopt a face covering policy and has specific regulations within the executive order. So most of what is contained in the board agenda item is taken directly from the executive order. I'll go ahead and read it for clarification. If there's any questions on any of these items, please let me know. Per Executive Order 2020-51, all staff and students over the age of 5 are required to wear face coverings at school until the Arizona Department of Health Services determines that face coverings are no longer necessary or recommended to contain the spread of the virus. The FUSD face covering policy includes the following. All staff and students will be required to wear cloth face coverings while on any school campus or district property, including buses and school vehicles. Staff or students with documented health conditions or educational reasons can request clear face shields in place of cloth masks. Face coverings are not to be worn during outside recess times. Face coverings are not required when students can physically distance 8 feet or more. Face coverings should not be worn by anyone under the age of 2 or by anyone who has trouble breathing, is unconscious, incapacitated, or otherwise unable to remove the mask. All students will be given periodic breaks where they can remove their face covering throughout the school day in a space that is physically distant from others. And finally, the district will provide information to families on face covering guidelines and the importance of wearing face coverings when not able to physically distance. So we're asking the board for approval. Any questions?
Do you want to go over how we're going to handle when a student doesn't have come to school with one, or we have an issue with that?
Yeah, so we're still working on amending our district code of conduct and handbooks. However, our guidance is going to be to follow the same code of conduct that's already existing, which is following a reasonable request by a school employee, and we have graduated discipline and referral processes in place. Our hope is that through education and prevention, we're gonna prevent a lot of those instances, and by educating with kids. But it is a federal or a state mandate and a part of the executive order, so it's going to be required for kids to comply. We'll work with families if either families or students are resistant to that, and take it from an educational perspective as opposed to just a punitive disciplinary perspective. But we will follow through with our reasonable request to comply with a staff directive. Any additional questions? Okay. All right, so the last agenda item clarification is just an update on our school reopening. So I wanted to start with just an update on our distance learning. So all school districts were required to implement a distance learning plan to start the school year on their regularly scheduled school calendar. So we did this. Our plan was approved by the state. We implemented this plan starting on July 22nd. So we've been at it for a few weeks now. On average, we're seeing about 95% attendance on a daily basis with our students, which is pretty much in line with what we see in an in-person setting. So that's encouraging considering some of the challenges with distance learning. Our tech team did an amazing job of distributing almost 7,000 devices to students. Mr. Knutz and I have talked quite frequently over the last couple weeks about some of the districts that weren't prepared to move in an online direction, and we were much better able to provide the necessary technology to families because we had been thoughtful about our bond usage and asking the community for that technology support many years ago in successive bonds, and so we were prepared to issue those devices to students. We are reporting good engagement and learning with kids. I was able to pop into classrooms periodically the first few days and saw kids connecting with their friends, connecting with their teachers. It was encouraging to see. A lot of our teachers have been extremely creative in the ways to engage students online. This is really new for everybody, so there's definitely a learning curve for parents, for students, and for teachers, and us as administrators to be able to support online learning in a really comprehensive way that our district's doing now. So there's a lot of encouragement that kids are doing well. But we know that there's struggles. We know that there's challenges. I know some of the audience members here are probably going to speak to that. Our goal is really to listen and to support families through this time. We know it's temporary. We know that every single one of us in this room want our kids back in school in person. And so we're trying to balance health and safety with really engaging our kids in ongoing learning and instruction. And we have some supports available for families as we move through this process. So we're going to be flexible. What I've told our administrators every single day is be flexible, work with families. Our main goal is just to be there as a partner as we get through this. It's not business as usual right now. So I wanted to move on to just giving the board an update on the school reopening benchmarks that were issued by the Arizona Department of Health Services. So this was issued last week. So in the board members, you have this document in front of you that I'm going to reference, and then we'll reference the slides that are up on the board, but that's not where I'm at yet. So right now, there's potentially four, but three main benchmarks that schools need to meet in order for the county health department to endorse a return to learn in person. So the first one you'll see on the far left is number of cases. This will be a 2-week decline in the total number of confirmed or suspected cases over a 2-week period plus 7 days. So we have a 7 to 10 day lag on reporting on the numbers, and so we need to see that 2 weeks is basically like you count for 3 weeks ago and then take those 2 weeks. Does that kind of make sense? So we're basically looking at a 3-week decline but not using the last week because those numbers are skewed. So we need to see a 2-week decline in the total number of cases. The second benchmark is percent positivity. So this is the PCR test or the cotton swab. So whenever you see somebody getting cotton swabbed in their nose, that's that test. That's the most accurate confirmation of the virus. So we are looking at a 2 weeks below 7%. So the percent positive of tests that are conducted need to be below 7% for a 2-week time frame to ensure that it's stable before that benchmark is met. And then the last one is COVID-like illness. So they use this as a proxy for unconfirmed cases since COVID-like illnesses are often influenza-like, so they use the symptoms to use for kind of judging the level of spread in the community, and that will be 10% or below for 2 weeks. All right, so if you switch to the next page, and this is the dashboard that's up front. So the Arizona Department of Health Services has created a school dashboard for these metrics. They are updated every Thursday, And again, the data is a lag, so it's for the previous 3 week before for those 2 week time frames. So if you look on, if you guys could click on Pinal County, please. There you go. Thank you, Jim. So these data were taken today, and they'll be updated this Thursday. The first benchmark is the number of cases. So as you can see, we met that benchmark. There's been a 2-week decline from July 5th in the number of cases, confirmed cases that we've had. There is another way to meet this metric is if the cases are less than 100 cases per 100,000 individuals. So that is a second way that we might be able to meet that metric. But that one is met. The next two have not been met. So 2 consecutive weeks of a percent positivity below 7%. Right now, we are at 11.1% positivity. As you can see, our high point was 18.1% in, I believe that was beginning of July, end of June. And then our low point was back in March at 4.1%. I believe that was March. I don't have the date on here. And then the third benchmark is 2 consecutive weeks with hospital visits for COVID-like illness below 10%. Although we've had a decline in one of the weeks, it still hasn't been met because, again, it has to be for 2 sustained weeks. So those are the 3 benchmarks. There is a potential that the county health departments have the discretion to be able to add another factor for reopening. I believe our county is not going to be doing that. They'll just be monitoring these 3 metrics for us.
So originally I thought they were going to put it by district. So now we're going to be rated throughout the whole Pinal County. So if Casa Grande has an outbreak, that's going to affect our numbers here?
Correct. So the way that the numbers are reported on the school dashboard right now are by county, not by zip code. There is some indication that the numbers may be skewed for if there's an outbreak even in our prison population in our zip code. So if you go on the website, you can break it out by zip code, but the school benchmarks are not broken down by zip code.
And do you have to meet each of these 3 or just one of the 3 benchmarks?
So in the guidance, it has a graduated release basically of the number of benchmarks. And they recommend that if you meet 2 or more, then you can start a phased-in process, and then 3 or more, you can do a full return. But if there's only 1 that's met, the recommendation from the health department is to remain fully online.
Could you explain the phase-in so that way the audience might be questioning what a phase-in means?
Sure. So right now, we're in one of the benchmarks met, which means we would be in the most restrictive phase. That is fully online with no in-person instruction. If 2 of the 3 met, then what it would mean is we could start to move into a process where some of the kids are educated online, which would be really our 2 options for a return to learn, where we reduce the number of kids on campus while providing online instruction through other means. And then once the 3rd benchmark is met, they're recommending a full return in person with the mitigation measures that we've put in place in our distance learning plan.
Did you talk about on the 17th
August 17th date. Soft opening.
in regards to soft opening?
Yep, so I'm going to get to that next.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. All right, so the second or 3rd or 4th, whatever, there's a lot in that executive order. So the next thing that the executive order required was all school districts to provide an opportunity for students to come back on campus if districts remain in an online environment past the 17th. This is to ensure that there's internet access and some supports for students that may need them in order to continue online instruction. So we met with our team and came up with a plan to start to bring some students on campus that have the highest need, whether it be for internet access or safety or even monitoring students during the day, because we know families are struggling with that as well. So what we're calling them is internet opportunity zones. And we had a soft opening of this process as well at the beginning of the school year for some kids. And really what this is, based on the executive order, is not instruction, but it'll be places at each school site that kids can sign up to go during school hours where they can access the internet, They'll be socially distanced, but they can be on campus. There'll be some staff there to monitor. Most likely it'll be classified staff. It won't be for direct instruction, but they'll be able to receive, some basic technology support if they're struggling with technology, and then they'll complete their online coursework with their teachers through the Google Meets while they're there. So most likely we'll be setting up in the cafeterias and the gyms, workstations for kids. They'll be able to go, stay there during the day, be supervised, and then be able to return home at the end of the day. We won't be able to provide transportation or, like I said, direct instruction, and there is a limit on capacity so we can ensure social distancing, but it's an option to try to provide some of that relief for families that are struggling. In addition to the Internet Opportunity Zones, we are working to identify our most at-risk students who are not benefiting at all from online instruction. So we knew there was a group of students, whether they be students with a disability or students with ELL, or English Language Learners, that may need some additional on-site testing or maybe some direct services for a short period of time, a couple times a week, to be able to make progress in their academic and behavioral goals. So we have our special ed director and her team are working to identify, to reach out to those families, to try to get a plan in place. They have a plan, but to really implement that plan so we can safely bring students in, provide some supports. Those would be provided by a teacher in a limited capacity, and then those students could continue to make progress. Any questions so far about any of that?
Will we be taking in food service at each stage of this also?
Yeah, so we're continuing to push, and we really want to take more advantage of it. I feel like we should be serving more meals right now at our current sites, but those students who come on site will be able to have meal access during the day, both breakfast and lunch, and those students who are not coming for the Internet Opportunity Zones can still come and receive, if they're free and reduced lunch, or if they purchase that lunch, they can still receive that lunch from their school site. Okay. The next thing I wanted to bring up is just kind of our transition to moving to in-person instruction. So we have our two models that the task force had developed, and I do have to apologize. So we pushed a couple of things out to families to try to sign up, but because as soon as we did that, things changed drastically within the context of kind of how we were operating, either through an executive order the governor put in or just the pandemic levels. We want to give families enough time to really understand, one, whether online learning and virtual instruction is going to work for them, and then two, to make sure they have the most current information on where the virus spread is in the community so they can make an informed decision on where they want to send their child. So the plan right now, we'll be pushing this information out to parents Monday next week for the registration process, but we're going to give them till the 28th now to choose whether they want virtual instruction through Florence Virtual Academy, or if they want to return in person with our return to learn plan and our mitigation plan in place. That's a pretty tall lift for just us as an organization, but we wanted to make sure that we had enough time both to give parents an opportunity to kind of go through all the information, get all their questions answered. We have FAQ videos that we're putting out every Friday to try to disseminate as much information as we can. So they'll be choosing by the 28th, and then we'll take that information. We'll identify how many students from each site are moved over. We'll select our teaching staff that will be reallocated from school sites to Florence Virtual Academy, train them, and then get all of the organization set up to begin instruction soon after, when the board decides return to in-person learning can resume. So that's a plan. We are ready to implement that. We have a newly appointed principal of, I don't want to take your thunder, Chris, but
Go ahead.
Jamie Lopez, who's up at the front here. She's been the assistant principal at Mountain Vista Academy for many years and has been instrumental in getting Florence Virtual Academy up and running, and a really high quality program. She's had incredible outcomes with graduation rates and performing both with kids who are accelerated as well as kids who are at risk and underperforming. And so we appointed her as principal of Florence Virtual Academy, so she's our newest principal, and we know she's going to do a really good job with those kids over there. So we can give her a round of applause. So then the other piece that I just wanted to update is just then for students that are returning in person. We know that there's no absolutes. We're doing our best to work within the constraints we have as a district. to ensure the safety and well-being of all of our families, our staff, and our students. And I can't tell you how much of a challenge this has been as an administrator. I've been stretched to my limit, and I know every decision I make I second guess because I don't know if it's the right one for kids, for families, for staff, and for the district. But we've worked really hard to make sure we're doing everything we can to both educate kids and make sure that they're safe in school. So we've bought face coverings for staff and students. We have both face shields, and we're even looking at potentially getting clear masks for staff and potentially some students if they need it while they're on campus. We've worked to install plexiglass barriers in our front offices and high traffic areas, as well as provide teachers who have requested one, either a plexiglass or a vinyl barrier in their classroom so they feel safe. We've increased our custodial support so that we have enough custodians and staff to be able to sanitize and frequently clean classrooms and high-touch areas. And then we've worked with the county. They've vetted our return to learn plan and gave us some feedback. They did comment that ours was one of the most comprehensive that they've seen, and they were happy with the job that we did as a task force to provide that. But they did have some small recommendations which we incorporated. But then there's two other pieces that we updated is we're working on a pre-contact tracing protocol so that if we do have an outbreak or a confirmed case at any school site, we do some pre-contact tracing. So it will not be, the contact tracing itself will be done by the county, but we have a process in place to facilitate that, to make sure that we have the data and information to be able to provide those county health workers so that we can expedite that process and hopefully make sure that we don't have to close down classrooms or schools at any point. The other thing that's tied to that is we developed a kind of a response matrix and internal tools so that we can work with the county to determine how widespread the case is and what that's going to look like if we have a confirmed case at any of our schools. And it's really going to be dependent. I mean, even a single case could potentially be a school closure case, but it's going to have to be made in conjunction with the school board and the county health department. We're going to work in collaboration with them. But it could be a couple of cases in different classrooms that we can isolate and then just have those classrooms shift to our distance learning model that we're doing now, continue instruction for the time of the isolation, and then return back in school without kind of skipping a beat. So we feel like this situation's ever evolving. We're trying to be open and honest, transparent, and responsive to our community. And we would be happy to answer any questions, or I would, about the work that the task force and the administrative team has done up until this point. But that's kind of an update that we have for you here.
I just want to make a comment on Florence Virtual is a different teaching mechanism than what we are currently doing, correct?
Yes and no. So the way Florence Virtual, Ms. Lopez is actually going to record one of those FAQs to kind of explain the process and the program, and we're going to push all that information out so parents have that. So the K-5 students are going to be continuing to use the curriculum that they're using now, meet with teachers virtually online, and engage with teachers in a very similar way.
Okay.
Our secondary students, because of the departmentalization, meaning specific subjects they travel to, we're going to use our Edgenuity platform, which is a self-paced, high quality but self-paced instructional platform, which the student will go through typically a couple classes at a time, and then they'll self-pace through that. Teachers will use an opportunity to check in with students, provide feedback, look at grading and assessment, meet with the student one-on-one if necessary, and kind of follow up them. So their role shifts a little bit than always the direct instruction.
I just have a concern that the parents are making a decision based off what they're seeing currently. And that is not how Florence Virtual is run. And I just want to make sure that they actually see how that works, because it is a completely different program. And I do have big concerns about the K-5. That's an age where they have to grasp a lot of subjects to get their standards right there. So that's good to know it's going to stay basically the same without that. But I do think that we have to make sure we are clear with our communication on what that program looks like, so there is not a confusion. Because like I said, a lot of people are struggling with how our system is currently and the program of what we are doing. So they need to know what the differences are going to be. Or if someone likes the way it is right now, then they switch, they think that that's the way it's going to be and that it's not. As you get older in Florence Virtual, you don't have as much one-on-one connection with the teacher that they might be currently having. So I just have concerns with that, making sure that we communicate that out completely to the public.
And that was really why we felt like we had to wait until now to really push things out. We had so much communication and changes. We didn't want to confuse parents, even though I'm sure we failed at that a little bit because we have so much that we have to push out. Our goal is to make sure they have all the information they need to make an informed decision. That's why we're going to have Ms. Lopez do a video. We often find the videos are a little bit easier because they can explain things in person kind of through that interview process, and then making sure that if there's any questions that families have, they have an outlet to get those questions answered before they have to make that decision. We've seen other districts really rush that decision and make parents choose quickly, and then they don't really have all the information, or things change, and then there's a lot of disruption because they have to go back and reconfigure things and stuff. So that's why we chose to wait a little bit longer, so we gave parents enough time to really understand where the environment was as well as what the model is going to be. And we did make a change, so that's going to be really important as we communicate that out to families. So I couldn't agree more.
Anything else?
Any further questions?
You know, my own son is sitting at home right now, and I don't like it. And here in Florence Unified, we're the only district in the state to have in-person graduation this past May. And we held a track meet in June where we brought in 500 kids from across the country and had a track meet at Post and Butte. Everyone wore masks at graduation, and nobody caught COVID because we tracked it. I mean, we emailed people after the track meet and nobody caught it. So that pretty much tells you how I feel about this. I've been in 4 meetings with 12 other soups and the governor and Kathy Hoffman over the last 4 months. And I feel like the governor's in a really bad place in regards to 50% of the people feel this way and 50% feel that way. Then this last week, we get these metrics, right? And the first one, declining cases or less than 100 cases per 100,000, which I'm not worried about that one. The second one is 2 consecutive weeks with a percent positivity below 7%. I struggle with that one right there, and this is what I said to the governor's office. I said, that less than 7% PCR makes me nervous. I don't know if our county can get there. The response from the governor's chief of staff, I understand the nervousness there for sure. Keep in mind, you are required to consider these metrics, but ultimately they are to be a part of a larger consideration for what best serves your community per Executive Order 51. So today I called the health department. How do we skew this number? How do we get this number to come down? Who goes and gets a COVID test right now, right? People that feel sick are going to get a COVID test. Every one of us needs to go and get a COVID test in the next 4 weeks. Everyone. So I said to the county health department, what is that number? They said maybe 2,000 positive or negative cases, people like us that are all sitting here that aren't symptomatic, that aren't feeling any symptoms, go and get a test. And maybe we can drive that number down. However, it is still a recommendation. So a lot of you are thinking, why is this guy recommending October 5th? Here's why, okay? We have had this moving target for the last 4 months, and we continue to come together as an administrative team to try and meet and plan for our kids to get them back into school. And guess what? The rug gets pulled out, and the target moves, and we're back to square one. So this has been the process we've gone through over the last 4 months. People haven't had vacations, which we don't need vacations, but the point I want to make is that the October 5th is a date that we really want to push. Our teachers, we've surveyed them, 90% of them want to come back on October 5th, whereas 60% want to come back prior because of this information that was not available prior. So another reason, does anybody know how long it takes an assistant principal to build a master schedule in a high school? That's basically registering all the kids and building all the classes across the high school. It takes about a month and a half. So right now, we get this information on the 7th. It is almost impossible to try to migrate the individuals over that want to stay online in Florence Virtual Academy and the kids that want to come in person, because guess what? We're going to have to move teachers too. So how do you do that in a week? You know, the 17th is coming up. I talked to the superintendent in Combs. They're going back on the 17th. Last night the board voted that. He doesn't know what he's going to do. Because guess what? They don't have it built. So we need a little bit of time to try to make sure we can get those master schedules built in the virtual environment as well as in person. So that's why I was making the recommendation, and I went back and forth. Adam and I went back and forth multiple times in the last week talking about this concept of when can we really do it right. We got 5 weeks to go, and I know it's been tough. I know it's been tough on everyone. It's been tough on the kids. Most importantly, it's been tough on them. It's been tough on parents. It's been tough on teachers. It's been tough on everybody. We're in a pandemic right now. So our goal is to try to get this number down as far as the consecutive weeks with positivity below 7%. We need to hit that in Pinell County. So I know a lot of you have social media. I don't care if you put it out there, the Knutson said, let's skew these numbers by everyone going out and getting tested. Go out and get tested, because I want my kid in school. I want your kids in school. And I don't know, it's just any way you look at it. I mean, and in the meetings with the governor, I feel for the guy. I feel like, you know, and I asked him some questions, put him on the spot. And there isn't a right answer, because everyone's split on how they feel about this topic. So, I don't know. We'll see what happens here this evening. I think that's all we have in regards to new business.
Okay, it's already after 6, so we will go ahead and move into the regular board meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt the agenda for August 11th, 2020 work study session regular board meeting?
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Thomas, second by Mr. Johnson. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Why can't I vote? Fuck.
Are y'all having a problem? Okay, Mrs. Solis?
Yay.
Mr. Daly? Yay. Mr. Johnson?
Yay.
Mr. Thomas? Yay. Motion carries 5-0. I don't know what's happening. Sorry, guys. It's a new system, so we're still trying to work through. Okay, please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, governing board member reports. Does the board have any objections to me going first? No, ma'am. Okay, thank you. Usually we start it the other way. I want to welcome everybody tonight. There's a lot of emotion going on, and I try to answer every email that I get in the best way that I can, and no answer is going to be what everybody wants to hear. I kind of want to go over, some are a little confused on what the board's role is. The board did not decide to close schools. That was a state government. The board cannot just decide now to reopen the schools. We are trying to follow the data that we are provided. We are not health officials. We do not have the right answer, so we have to follow the best that we can with what we are given. Do I think the state has lacked in their ability to give that to us in a timely manner? I absolutely do. They have continuously told us, here's this date, and they dangle it like a carrot, and we all get excited, like, yes, we're going back, and then they take it away from us again. And it's hard on everybody, and a lot of families have had to readjust their lives now to change that. It's not that I ever thought that parents chose that teachers were babysitters. I don't ever believe that. I think that we take our careers and our jobs based on when our kids are in school so that we can be at home with them at a later time. So that's where we're at right now. So now everybody's got these careers that they based on when their kids were going to be in school, and now what do? I get the struggle. I understand that. So while it might seem that the board doesn't have direction or the board's not making a decision, it's because we aren't given the data that we need to make that decision completely. Like I said, if we had decided to close, that would have been on us. And then we should be able to decide when we're going to open. But again, we did not decide to close. So it's not really, it's out of our hands to open when we as a board feel like we need to. We have always said from the very beginning that we would follow the data as much as we can to mitigate the spread of the virus. And that's what we will continue to do. Do I think that we're going to meet every benchmark? No, I do not. But I do know the thing that is best for the kids is to get them in school as soon as possible. So while I want the kids, all kids to be in school as of Monday, I want to make sure that we do it right. I don't want to put the kids in school, we don't have all mitigation areas taken care of, and then we're all of a sudden closed 2 weeks later. That's not what's best for our kids. Our schedules aren't completely set because we don't know who's coming, who's going. There's been so much change, families have not been able to make their best informed decision. So we have to give them that time. While I feel like we keep moving that date out and giving parents more time, it's because the system keeps changing it and they have to know what they're doing. A lot of parents might have made the decision before. They were returning their kids to school because masks weren't mandated. Well, now masks are mandated. So now parents now have to reevaluate, is that something that they're willing to do? So there's been many changes that have gone into place. So while I will stand up for my board here, it's not anything that the board is choosing to do. It's us trying to follow the best directions that we have been given. I had a parent say to me, well, you're lucky that you don't have any kids in school this year because my last one graduated last year. My response is, you're wrong. I have 10,000 kids in school. And that's how I passionately feel about this, is I have 10,000 kids that need to get into school and do what's best for them. And not only those 10,000 kids, that means I have families, approximately 5,000 families, let's say, if there was 2 kids to a family. It's a lot. And I know that I will speak for the entire board on this. I know every board member here feels the same way. So I ask for patience, I ask for the empathy in it. It's the understanding. I get the frustrations. You know, I'll answer an email and I'm just like, I get it, you know, and I want to say the words that I want to say. I get it. There's no other way to say it besides I get it, but we can't do everything that we want to do. We have to make sure that we follow as much procedures that we can to get the kids back in the right way. Okay, that's my soapbox for that. I do want to talk about the enrollment. I am very impressed that the enrollment is up. I just want to make sure that while the enrollment's up, the kids are also engaged. The kids can log in, but we have to make sure they're engaged. Now, I know a lot of them are not going to be. I've seen, you know, they're not doing everything that they should be, and not every kid's going to. I reach out to the teachers, do your best. If it's a one-on-one Zoom call with them, if it's a phone call, you know, or a FaceTime, something that the kids can kind of get a better connection with you, I encourage you to do that. They are used to walking into a classroom, meeting their friends, getting to see their teacher, and they don't have that anymore. It's not the same sitting behind the computer. Our older grades, the upper levels, it's going to be easier for them. My concern is the younger kids, and I really encourage those teachers to make sure that you are doing, not just logging in for your time period, but actually making a connection with those kids, and not just them, but their parents. Talk to their parents, find out what is lacking, what they need to make sure that their kid is more engaged with that. It seems like October 5th is far away, but it's really not. It's gonna go by hopefully quick. I mean, you're looking at, we would have been out for 2 weeks in September anyway. We're getting there, we're getting there. On more positive notes, Mrs. Potter, I think you're in here. I just love your morning announcements in the morning. If you guys watch any kind of social media, the schools have been really great about trying to engage like not only the kids, but the families and what goes on. And Mrs. Potter puts on the best show for her morning announcements. Every morning I get up and I'm like, oh, what's Deanna gonna do today? What's she gonna have on? So I do, that's just great, thank you for that. Copper Basin has done a great job of showing teachers actually in the classroom and engaging with their students and teaching them lessons in the classrooms. And I haven't seen that on some of the others, but I do try to watch as many of the sites that I possibly can. But it has been encouraging to see teachers in the classroom and doing instruction with those kids. It gets the kids to kind of, I saw one teacher give a whole tour of the classroom and makes the kids a little bit more feel like they're in there with them. Walker Butte, your garden is looking amazing over the summer. I wish my bushes would grow like that in this heat, so that looks great. Congratulations to Post and Butte Baseball. They were one of 7 schools to receive the Academic Excellence Award for their GPAs of their athletes. So congratulations to them, because that's a big accomplishment for one of 7 kids. So one of 7 schools, I should say. Community Ed did a remarkable job of handing out 2,200 backpacks for our kids to get back to school. That's great, since we couldn't do it like we normally do where we have a big event, so they had to sign up online, and we still distributed 2,200 backpacks to those kids. That's great. Building Blocks in Florence is opening August 17th, so that's nice to bring that resource that we had out in the Santan Valley area to Florence. So if anybody is out here, I encourage you guys to look into that program for your younger kids. On the back to school nights, like the Meet the Teachers, everybody did them virtual. It's very different. I'm not used to it at all. But the only plus side is myself that doesn't get to go to each school and meet these teachers gets to watch what these kids get to see. And I could just say that Santan Heights, Mr. Hillerman did an amazing job. And if anybody wants to go back and have a great laugh and see, I wanted to go back to school and be in Mr. Hillerman's class. So you guys are doing a great job. We just need to do a little bit better. We always can do better. And virtual is different. It's not for everybody. It's not. And I would say it's probably not for a majority. But this is where we're at right now. So let's try to embrace it the best that we can. Remain positive for our kids the best that we can, because the kids pick up on our negativity about something, and they're going to tune out, and they're not going to want to achieve the levels that they possibly can. And we will get back in schools, and we will be there all with welcome arms. We won't be hugging, but we'll be like doing something for them to welcome them back in. I am done with my long speech. So Mrs. Solis?
Well, thank you everyone for coming. I really enjoy when we have a full house because I love parent participation. Usually I read all the school's reports and the board's reports, and I mark and highlight things that I want to congratulate people on or let the community know what's happening on one area of our school, because I think we're such a large district mileage-wise that I think it's good we all know what's going on. But I decided tonight to speak not necessarily as a board member, but as a parent, because I think our parents are panicking a little bit. All day long at work, I am constantly telling my bosses, everything's going to be okay, we'll figure it out, don't panic. And I find myself, as a parent, panicking. So I think it's important that we sometimes take a step back and realize we don't have control. We just kind of need to take it day by day and relax a little bit, because we're stressing out our kids, just like my bosses are stressing out me at work if they don't stop panicking. I don't want to say I'm lucky enough to have an older kid in school, but I know that a kid in high school is much easier for them to attend virtually than it is for the younger kids. I 100% understand that. My daughter's a senior this year. I want to tell you her teachers have been fantastic. I can tell you every teacher in this district, every employee in this district is doing everything they can for the kids and for the parents of our communities. Her English teacher does roll call every morning, a live roll call every morning. She mandates that every student have their camera on so she can do a safety check, so she can see what those kids look like, so she can ensure that they are being cared for at home. Because normally, students come into the classroom and they get to see those kids. A lot of stuff happens at home that comes back into school that we then have to deal with there. So they're doing safety checks, they're doing roll calls. She's in dance, and I'm thinking, how are you going to do dance virtually? But it's working if we just take a step back, and she is loving it. I want her to go back to class. I want her to be in school like yesterday. But she is loving this online platform, and she wants to continue online, and I'm struggling with that. And I'm not struggling with it because I think it's wrong, but it's different. So I just encourage everyone to think outside of the box and relax a little bit. Please know that everyone in this room, all your principals, all your teachers are feeling for you. They're feeling for themselves. Everyone cares 100%. If you have any questions about what your child is doing online, if you have any concerns about what your child is doing online, if you notice they're not turning in work or they got a bad grade, communicate with your kids' teachers. They will respond. And that's all that I have. Thank you guys.
Mr. Johnson?
Denise, you said it really well, and I'm just going to dovetail off that a little bit. And I feel as a board member, I've got three main goals that I have to do. And my number one goal for Florence Unified is make sure my kids are safe. And that's your kids, our kids. So we've got to make sure we give them the safest environment possible. Second most important goal is to give them the best education we can with the resources we have available. And then the third thing we have is we have to make sure that we're using the taxpayers' dollars in the most fiscally responsible way that we can to administer the business of school and to make sure our education system runs. I also ask that there are no right answers, because with this pandemic, what we're bringing into case is something called risk tolerance. And it varies very differently from one person to the next. It's that way in my own family. My elderly parents don't leave their house. My brother and his wife don't really leave their house up in Phoenix. I have a little bit more of a flexible attitude. However, I am also not looking to go to Vegas anytime soon to go play in the casinos, because I just don't think it would be a safe, prudent decision. But I think as far as if we can look at it with dignity for everybody that's in this district, we'll agree to disagree. We're trying to get it right the best we can with the information we have. That target's always moving, but I will want to put it out there that this board is the most committed and dedicated to giving your kids the most safe, health-oriented education we can, and we want to work together as a partnership.
Thank you. Mr. Daly?
Okay, I'm going to try to keep this short, but as most of you know, I own 3 businesses. 2 are here in Santan Valley, and 1 is pretty much valley-wide. I've got about 120 employees total between the 3 of them. I've got 7 or 8 that actually have kids in our district. Some want them to be online, most of them want them to be in school. I have a daughter that's a teacher at Santan Foothills that went through the whole FUSD system from first grade all the way through Poston. Graduated ASU 2 years ago. I'm truly about the community. I'm out there, I live here, I work here. I'm about doing what's right for our kids, and I'm about what's doing right for our teachers. So every decision that I personally believe, because I've been with this board for many years, we are all in that same situation. We're not just looking at teachers, we're not just looking at kids, we're looking at everyone in the district. I'm sure because we have a bunch of people here that some are for in-school learning, some may be for, at-home learning, but we're going to try to make it so that everyone's happy, or as happy as we can be at this point. So thank you all for coming and showing your support, and we promise to do everything that we can to do the right thing for our kids and our staff.
Mr. Thomas?
Well, of course, I agree with what everyone has said, so there's no sense in reiterating that. But I would like to piggyback on something Chris mentioned. That's about the statistics of positive testing. And I think it's accurate to say that majority of the people get tested do so because they're either in an environment such as a health worker, or they're feeling symptoms. And so it does skew the positive rates up in my mind. If the entire county or the entire country got tested, I think you'd see the positivity rates drop dramatically. So I encourage you, like Chris did, if you can afford it, if you can find somewhere to do it, and get out and get tested. Thank you.
Denise, can I add something real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm sorry, guys. So now back as a board member. If you don't follow your child's school on some sort of social media platform, please do so. You do learn a lot, you see a lot on those social medias. I know that Rita's doing a good job about sending out a Fun Fact Friday. Am I getting that right? Fun Fact Friday. Any question you have, you fill out the form, it gets sent to the district office, and then every Friday they have one of their admin answer those questions live on their YouTube channel, and there's a link for that. So any question you have, please ask it, because if you have that question, guaranteed at least 10 other parents have that same question. So I encourage you to try to use all the social media platforms that you have at your disposal. That's it. Thank you.
Mr. Knudsen, anything else, or you're good with what you had earlier?
No, for those of you that voted yes for the last bond, I want to thank you. We were able to do some great things across the district in regards to upgrading our playgrounds, building some facilities, buying buses, having enough devices during this pandemic for all of our students is a direct result of that last bond that was passed. So I just wanted to thank you guys for those of you that voted for it, because, you know, even though it's not a good situation that we're in right now, regardless of what angle you look at it, we're at least able to get a device in every kid's hands. And a lot of districts across the state, that's not how it is. I mean, there's situations where districts do not have the bandwidth for their teachers for them to even, all of them to even come in and teach in the school online that we're dealing with right now. So by you guys passing that last bond, you know, we've been able to upgrade our fleet, upgrade our buses. We had a cyber attack this year where, you know, everything, they got hacked in our district. Well, guess what? Those bond dollars that you guys passed last time helped us to upgrade our infrastructure for our technology, so that in the future, maybe we won't get a malware attack where it goes in and corrupts everything. So I'm proud of the staff in FUSD and how we've dealt with the adversity. It's been very difficult, but I'm very happy with how the collective leadership of the district has responded.
Okay. The next item will be calls to the public. Michelle, do you have them? Yeah. Just so when we call you to the podium, you'll need to come up. You'll have 3 minutes to speak. So just make sure we stick within that. We will give you like a little bit of a warning, and then we'll cut you off at 3 minutes, even if you're not done speaking. I encourage you that if the item is not on the agenda, we cannot speak in regards to it. So we can't ask you questions. We can't go have a conversation back and forth, but we will get somebody else to either address your situation, or it has to be a future agenda item, something like that. All right. The first one will be Ashley Mulmy, and I'm sorry if I say the names wrong. I always do it to you every time. I have to say you spelt it wrong up here, and then you fixed it.
I was rushing. There was a line behind me. So, no worries. All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board, Superintendent Knudsen, and members of the community. My name is Ashley Mulmy. She will get it right. And I am the VP of FEA. I'm here to first thank you for being supportive as FUSD continues to strive to be the best we can be in this unusual situation. Our students have done an amazing job adapting to the virtual learning platform, and I see that many aspects of virtual learning may never go away, even when we return to the physical school building. I know that many staff and students want to return to the classroom. I myself would love to as well, but I want it to be as safe as possible for all parties involved. Seeing the new benchmarks for our state about reopening school buildings, I'm in agreement of what is being proposed about staying virtual for most of our students until after fall break. Many of the FUSD staff would love to see our buildings phase in students to the classrooms. If we do this, it would help students and staff to readjust to being in the classroom setting with all the new rules and procedures that will need to be followed. FUSD has worked hard to make online learning go as well as possible for all parties involved. We would hate to see the hard work disappear before fall break. Thank you again for your support, and I am eager to continue teaching my students in the best way that I can virtually until it is safer to be back into the classroom at our school buildings. Thank you for thinking about it.
Thank you. Next one is Lindsay. Does not have a last name, so there's multiple, sorry. Oh, you're fine. Ashley was pushing in line. I know how it is. So.
No, she was fine. So we moved it to Arizona right in October 22nd, our house closed in Anthem. So we left California knowing the pandemic was happening. Arizona did close. So I have a different perspective coming from another state. And I could say that, yes, you guys are doing 10 times better than the school my kids came from in California. But as a parent, I have 8-year-old twins. They're sitting back there. Every day, and I'm sure many parents in here can concur with me, that the tears, the crying, I hate this. I just want to go back to school. I want to meet my friends. I want to meet friends. And of course, we all want our life to go back every day, and we want it to be safe. But my daughter, I had her tested, I was having her tested for an IEP right when the pandemic hit. her educate, and I know that there's something that's missing, she needs help somewhere. She is unable to get that help, unable to be successful virtual. And I do the best that I can from home. I have her brother, the 2-year-old, that's running around. So I do my best with him, I do my best with her. But I just feel like their education's lacking at this point. And I know that everybody's trying their best, and I know everybody's doing the best that they can, and their teachers are great, but it doesn't take the place of being with an aide or someone that can help her. Because my strong point is not math. I will be the first one to tell you. So I'm having to look things up on YouTube and look things up on Khan Academy to help her, but by the time I figured it out, 2 hours have gone by, and I feel like everything's just kind of wasted of what I taught her. So, I mean, would I like school to open up the 17th? Absolutely. Is that reality just from hearing you guys? Probably not. But my concern for a lot of people in here is if it keeps getting pushed back, then what? Are we never going to come back to school? Are we going to have to close down the minute that there's an outbreak, which there will be. We all know that. I mean, this gentleman and I have a very same viewpoint of how, you know, to me, honestly, after the elections, it's all going to go away. But I'll say that. I'll say that. And I was I'm actually employed by Florence Unified. I can't go to work until my kids go back to school. So that's kind of a I can't go back. And yes, I put my paperwork in and everything, and everybody's approved me to stay home. I want to go back to work. I'm tired of being on unemployment. I am. I'm tired of, I feel like I'm just collecting money, and I feel like it's just not fair. So a lot of people I know here have had to stay home. Believe me, there's a few of us, we all message every day. We just want our kids to go back to school. So, and I know that there's a couple parents here that their kids are special ed, and they're hurting too. The sped ed kids, they need it more than anything. They need the resources, they need the tutoring, so would it be possible for maybe tutoring to open up before October, just a small group, to where my daughter can get help with math, and I know Tammy's daughter needs help, and a couple others do too.
Your time's up. I can say comment to this because this is on the agenda with the return date. Dr. Lucky will get with you, but like we said, that the August 17th would be the date that we would be bringing back in some of the kids that needed those one-on-one instruction, so that option is available. So if you would I'll give this to Dr. Lucky, and then he'll contact with you and get that worked out, okay? Next one, Preston Hall.
Good afternoon, thank you. I had a couple points of the testing that we're asking to, I agree. If a lot of people don't, I am an essential worker. I get tested weekly. I work down at the Intel facility. I'm required to get tested. My thing is with getting these statistics to drop in our area, we were told that they're being done countywide, but we want them done. Why can't we do them locally? Why can't we have the students tested and the teachers tested? And if those tests come back, why wouldn't we be able to open the schools or keep our children safer that way? With the schools opening in 5 weeks, that's enough time for the students and teachers to get tested. If we're able to bring those results into the schools, why would that be could that be something that we could address or even put forward to you guys to make that something to have our students be safe? That way we're not just depending on county-wide. I mean, we have the prison systems, we have everything almost down to Tucson, all the way out to Arizona farms. That's a lot of people, and a lot of them aren't in our children's schools or even near them. So, and again, that's one of the biggest things. It's like, how can we justify keeping our students safe and our children safe if we don't know where the results are coming from? We don't know if it's you, me, the guy down the street. It could be a gentleman or a family 150 miles away. But that's what I have.
Okay, thank you. I'll give this to Mr. King.
I talked to the county health department today in regards to that, what you were just talking about. They will be pulling out the prison population, the tests that are going on in the prison. So we'll be working directly with the county health department in regards to those numbers and how, the 12, how many prisons are here, Tony? 14? 14? 13? So those numbers will all be pulled out before we look at what that data is.
Okay,
Well, it's already done.
But I'm saying as far as the public, to reach out to our elected official,
Oh, yeah.
so Supervisor Mike Goodman.
Supervisor Mike Goodman is our county supervisor. You can reach out to him as well. See if we can get some testing ramped up in this county. Does anybody know where you can get it around here?
Like there's free testing going on right
Eloy? Nothing local like here? No? Well, maybe we can get Supervisor Goodman on it. I'll call him.
Okay, next is Lily Hall. No? Oh, she is? Okay. Oh. She was down there. I didn't see anybody moving, so.
Thank you guys for letting me and all of the parents speak. I just want to say thank you to everybody who is in Florence School District. You guys are doing amazing, and I'm just so thankful. There are a few things that I did want to talk about. I'm not good at this public speaking. If I could just talk just in general, it's totally easy. So like, what about the children and abuse at home? Like we talked about safety checks with like a teacher. What about them being in the place that they're being abused? Do you think they're really going to be honest? And, sorry, this is a touchy subject. Yeah, do you think they're really going to be honest? Schools are their safe place. And it's where they feel comfortable and get one-on-one with the teacher or a counselor or anybody just in the school. Also, single parents, child care, us, not trying to be rude, but I know everybody didn't expect to be homeschooling parents, because I sure as heck didn't. And then if you're a single parent, and working, just like you guys said, it's hard. Nobody expected to do it. But we also were told one thing, and by August 17th that we would be back in school. And then they touched on the subject of special needs children and families. It's not just the children, it's the families that make it. And then kindergartners, that is really hard right now, to get them to focus and do work when they don't even know what to expect. I'm thankful my daughter went to preschool, but for all the other kindergartners, they don't know anything. But that's all I have to say.
Thank you.
Director Faust with Child Protective Services was in one of the meetings with the governor, and that was one of the things that he was talking about in regards to the social emotional health of our young people and what isolation does and how it's so important that we get them back into school. And he talked about the infection rate within the 100,000 foster children that have all been tested, and it's a really low number of the kids that have actually caught COVID-19, very low. So from his perspective, he wants to get the kids back in as soon as possible.
Tammy Mendoza?
First of all, I want to say thank you guys for everything you are doing, because I know it's got to be incredibly difficult on you guys as much as it is on all of us. I have a special needs daughter. My daughter's in kindergarten this year. She has Down syndrome. I have watched her regress something horrible. I have a 12-year-old that now is on Prozac because he's so depressed, because he misses his friends and he can't do his school. Every morning he sits on the couch and cries, and I have to fight him to get online. Every morning. Something's got to change somehow. I know you guys, I understand that we're really struggling with the data, with the times, with everything that's going on. And I don't want them to have to be pulled back out in 2 weeks after they start either. I get all that. But something has got to be done with these kids to get them engaged somehow. I'm afraid that we are going to have suicidal kids. Nobody's taking care of those. I've got a daughter that's got 2 kids at the IEP. They're having to stay in school till 3 o'clock in the afternoon. They're in 2nd grade. It's not working. There's a lot of good things about the homeschooling. I got older kids, I've got high schoolers. They're doing okay. I've got a kid with ADHD, not so well. But there's got to be something where we can get some of these kids a little more help that are needing it. You know, I know there's other kids going into school that are being protected or that have got issues with home with no parent there or no internet or whatever. But we've also got another population that you guys, we're letting our kids with IEPs and special needs fall through the cracks. And I can't let that keep happening. It's frustrating. And then you ask about everybody getting tested. Well, when a parent goes and gets tested, they've got to sit and wait for 10 days for the test results to come back. So if you've got your whole school, parents can't do that. They've got to work. My husband works for FUSD. He can't go take a test. It's just not, it sounds great in theory, but what are you guys going to do for our special needs, ones that are falling through the cracks? Has anybody, I'll get on a committee, I'll do whatever, I'll help out. But my baby is worth more than this. And that's all I really got to say. And like I said, I do appreciate everything that this has got to be tough for you guys. I'm not even negating that.
I will say, though, that again, we stated earlier in the plan, it is that the special needs, anybody that needs direct instruction will start to be able to get that as of August 17th. So we do have that plan in place. So that plan is there. I marked Dr. Lucky's name on it, and you can contact with him also, and he can get you set up on what you're going to need to do.
Thank you.
Mrs. Gunther?
Yes.
In case anybody does need COVID testing, I know that One Life Medical Center in Queen Creek at Rittenhouse, Nocatee, I was just there for my physical this morning. He said, make sure everyone knows we do COVID testing, we do the antibody testing. They do it every day of the week. Just call them One Life Medical Center. And they're very, very nice in there. So,
Thank you, Mr. Daly. Heather Smith.
So it sounds like you guys covered a lot of what I really wanted to say. The working parents. I myself am a working parent. This was kind of thrown in our laps, just I'm sure like it was thrown in your laps. The thing that made me really angry about all of this is there was no other option. You guys decided that we were going back to school, we were doing it distance learning, and this is what we were doing. I'm working, my husband's working. My 6th grader is now watching my 7th grader, and they're attending school online by themselves at home. My 6th grader calls me 3-4 times a day, bawling her eyes out because the format that you guys have got Google Classroom on can't hold this many kids. It lags out, it kicks her out, she can't unmute, she can't do the video. She's had teachers yell at her, and mind you, she is like a straight A student. So unfortunately, this is really killing her self-confidence. We are now at the point where she is extremely defeated. She doesn't want to get up in the morning. She doesn't want to log on to school. And on top of it, she's watching my 2nd grader. My 2nd grader, who he's a little bit harder to get motivated. He's a little bit harder to concentrate. He has been a constant issue in his class, and I'm getting constant emails from the teacher saying he's got behavioral issues. He's not listening. He's not participating. He's not like this in class, but the issue is he's sitting at home with his 6th grade sister, watching him, forcing him to go online. There's nothing I can do, because right now I'm being forced to choose between putting food on my table and paying bills or my kids' education. I don't have a choice. I feel like October 5th is a ways away, And I really don't feel like I can last this long. My kids their self-confidence has just completely dropped. And I don't know what else to do. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Know that if you're up here speaking and I start writing, it's just because I'm taking notes of what I would like someone to address, so I'm not trying to be rude. Okay, Christina S. Oh, Christina, I think we've been emailing back and forth.
We have, and I apologize for my attitude. I have had a day. I cannot even.
Well, I accept your apology, so that's great.
I just want to speak to, there's a lot of issues in Google Classroom that nobody is talking about. There's a lot of instances coming up where kids are being exposed to things like pornography because they're being hacked. And there seems to be no way around that. Anyone who has access to these devices in the home also has access to our children's images, their grade level, their teachers, their school, all of this personal information. And they can distribute those images however they feel like. There's no stopping them. I feel like in this day and age, especially since numbers have really made themselves known when it comes to human trafficking in this country, I believe I read today there's 231 children that go missing and go into the big enslavement that is human trafficking today. There's 231 kids that are going missing out of Arizona, and that's a huge number. And I feel like we're doing nothing to prevent it, and a lot of it comes from online. I've heard of just kids being exposed to things that they should not be exposed to, people hacking. Furthermore, today, my son's teacher, for the third time in the past week and a half, got locked out of her own classroom, virtually, leaving 30 kids to their own devices. She was gone for 40 minutes. Apparently, her computer shut down completely at home, and she decided to take off and go to the school to pick up a new computer, which is fine, but no one told any of the parents. In fact, a lot of parents didn't know about it. However, I happened to be sitting with my son helping him with his math, because math is not his strong suit, and was basically forced to sit there and babysit these kids because who knows what they could get into. They're not even allowed to have their mics on during breaks anymore because they cannot adhere to the proper discussions. They misbehave. So that is a big issue that is not being, when I asked the principal, because I actually had to call and find all of these things out, when I asked her, she said, oh yeah, I just told the lady in the office to just, if anybody called, just to let them know what was going on. But 40 minutes, if they were to actually do this with any classroom setting, that would be inexcusable. Nobody would put up with that at all. Because like myself, I have another child, like everybody else in this room, we have other children that we have to tend to and help them. I have a kindergartner who does not know how to video chat very well, who doesn't know anything really about school. He's smart, but I have to help him. I have to keep him engaged. So we're having to juggle, and it's more about security issues, honestly. Sorry, I'm terrible at public speaking too, but that's really all I have to say on this.
No problem, I got it all down. Thank you. Jeremy Whitaker.
Howdy. I think everyone knows that it's special people that do what you guys do or be teachers. And it sounds like that's a lot of what everybody's saying is that you get the kids go to these environments to be around people that chose to do it. And it's not for everybody. I could have gone a couple different ways in life. I didn't even graduate high school. I chose to specifically after working to move to this community, partially for the school, for our community center and Anthem, and we love Florence and we love it out here. I can speak to the panic a little bit. I watched everybody buy a bunch of toilet paper. And I told my wife, no, we're not gonna buy toilet paper because the toilet paper is coming back. That's insane. The toilet paper is not gonna run out. And the toilet paper came back. And then everybody bought all the chicken. I was like, now we don't need to buy another freezer and fill up with chicken because the chicken will come back. I've worked in manufacturing my whole life. I didn't buy it. This is the first time I would say that in my life that something I thought was going to happen, my trust in society, has gone the other way. I thought schools were going to open back up and they didn't. And I understand everything you guys are saying, but the importance of it, even for people that aren't special ed, which, and all the different stuff that I've heard about, and that's very important for them, but just everybody, every single kid, it's important for the social, and you guys know that, and so I'm not here to preach about it, but I'm not panicking. I have a sense of urgency. I know that every day that goes by is an opportunity loss of an experience, a coach, sports, just all of that stuff. So it's urgency, I feel. Urgency to get back to what we know works. We can spend all the money on virtual stuff, but it's almost like these tests. It's bad science. Everyone knows it's a small amount of people that really do well in virtual environments. It was that way before. That's why there were so few virtual, the technology's not new. COVID's just pushed us in a weird area. So we know about masks, we know about sanitizing. I'd like to see us just put those things in place and get on with it. So that's all I have to say.
Well, we've put all those things in place, you know, and in my perspective from being the superintendent here, in a meeting with the governor early on, first meeting, I let him know that we're the only place that held in-person graduation in the state. We're the only place that had a track meet in June, and the reason that I felt like we needed to do that is my own experience. My wife and I lost our middle child after a 7-year battle with leukemia. And during that time, her immune system was compromised for 7 years, and we had to deal with mitigating her catching and dying from a common flu bug. So, you know, unfortunately, we lost her to leukemia. But I said in the meeting with the governor, now everyone in our world knows about 1/10 of what it feels like to be a kid with cancer. And I see how we're all acting. I wish I had a magic wand that I could just wave over everybody and say, just be nice to everybody right now, because what I'm seeing in our society, it's not good. But we are putting all those things, and we're pushing. We're going to push, and we're not going to roll over. Unfortunately, we have these things that our government is making us do, and we're going to do the best that we can with that. But we're going to push. I mean, I've been on the phone with the AIA in regards to we need something for our kids. You know, as far as the AIA and getting them back in to be around their friends in some manner. I've been pushing that. I want the bands practicing, because right now we can do those things. So I understand that a BOTA dropped the marching band competitions. Okay, I understand that. I have no control over that. So I'll talk to our band instructors and say, listen, I got no problem holding a track meet in Florence Unified. I definitely don't have any problem holding a band competition if we can do it safely. So, I mean, and I know it's tough. I know. We want to win in the band as much as we do in football or in cheer or any of our extracurricular activities. And we're going to continue to push. So.
Does the board have any questions or comments about reopening since it was on the agenda? No? Okay. Okay, the next item will be the consent agenda. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
Motion was made by Mr. Thomas, second by Mrs. Solis. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
Give us a vote.
Can you all vote? No? Okay, Mrs. Solis?
Yay.
Mr. Johnson? Yay. Mr. Daly?
Yay.
Mr. Thomas?
Yay.
Myself, yay. Motion carries 5-0. I don't know what it's doing. It's wanting me to designate a final resolution.
We just spent $10,000 on this. If this doesn't work, I'm gonna
I'm trying to
find
control.
out where this company is.
Right now, I'm trying to remember what I said about remaining positive and being very, yeah. And see when I do this, so watch, I selected it all, I hit save. And now it says I have to designate final resolution, so I'm just exiting out. I'm just moving on so we can get going. Okay. Okay, our next item will be the approval of the face covering policy as required by the Arizona Governor's Executive Order EO 2020-51. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Daly, second by Mr. Thomas. Is there any discussion? The only thing I want to say is just remember, teachers, this is a new policy in the schools. Please remember that this is about education. We educate our kids. We don't want to just discipline them. Let's get them on the right track so everybody's adapted to our new culture. Please vote.
Got it.
And the sun came out. Okay, motion
Gotta
carried
remember,
5-0.
She's a paid employee and she's not.
It still doesn't work completely, but we're just gonna vote it to work, okay. Okay, the next one will be employee pay resolution related to COVID-19 and Arizona's Open for Learning plan.
So moved.
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Daly, second by Mrs. Solis. Is there any discussion? Please vote.
And it actually took us there.
Okay, motion carried 5-0. Okay, the next item will be the IGA between Florence Unified School District and Pinal County Education Service Consortium. Do I have a motion?
I'll move the governing board approve the intergovernmental agreement between Florence Unified School District and Pinal County Education Service Consortium.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Johnson, second by Mrs. Solis. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion carries 5-0. The next item will be delay of in-person instruction till October 5th, 2020. Do I have a motion?
I recommend that the school board approve delaying in-person instruction to begin no earlier than the scheduled first day of the second quarter, which is October 5th, 2020.
I'll second.
Motion was made by Mr. Daly, second by Mr. Thomas. Is there any discussion?
Yeah, I just want to emphasize that this does not include the special arrangements
Yes.
that Dr. Leckie spoke about earlier. Okay.
Which does include special ed, IEPs, or any kids that might need direct supervision or do not have the ability to do online at home. If there's situations that are occurring, make sure that you contact and get that arranged so that the kids can return to school, as we want to call it, as our soft opening, so that we can get those kids back in.
Through your local principal.
Yeah.
What about kids that are struggling at home that don't need IEPs?
Yes.
They're struggling, yes. That's what I said.
They're struggling.
They may be sitting in my office with me.
It's any kids that need direct supervision. And that's written by the ADE from the state. So that's what you'll need to just contact them and they can get back in school.
But that's not with a teacher, that's just sitting with parents pretty much.
Pretty much. But it'll be in the school with a little bit more of a direct supervision with that. Is there any other discussion from the board? Okay, please vote. Motion carried 5-0. Any items for future agendas? I just have the one about insurance on the next one. Also, the board could start getting a report of where we're at on those benchmarks if it changes each week and if we get an updated one. Anything else from anybody?
Yeah, that's another thing we found out. We're not covered under our insurance for COVID-related suits. So if somebody catches it and sues us, we aren't covered.
Okay, the next regular board meeting will be held Tuesday, September 8th, 2020 in the Santan Foothills High School Cafeteria, 1255 West Silverdale Road, Queen Creek, Arizona, 85142. The work study session will begin at 5:30 p.m.
I thought we were going to continue here for the time being.
I think it was just here.
Maybe I misread your email.
No, that was just this meeting.
We want, so if we're going to continue to stream, we may need to continue to do our meetings here because all of their equipment is right here.
I'm going to leave that as, is that going to be at Santan Foothills and then we can have,
Probably here.
because we have to stream until, okay. Then I need to move this, hold on.
I would say to be determined.
In October 5th, and then we're rounding down to like flu season. Are we going to go into Hannah again?
I'm going to have you, just so that we follow the actual rules of order, that I'm going to have you talk to Mr. Knudsen afterwards so that the board can adjourn first so that we're not included in those conversations right now. Okay, so the next regular board meeting will be held actually here at the Florence District Office at 1000 South Main Street, Florence, Arizona, and will begin promptly at 5:30 p.m. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion was made by Mr. Thomas, second by Mrs. Solis. Is there any discussion? Please vote. Motion carried 5-0. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.